everybody, Shawn here. Welcome to my studio. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. I got another pedal coming at you today. This one is by Jackson Audio and it's called the Prism. There she is there. When I first checked this pedal out, I was trying to figure out what it was because they weren't really calling it anything other than the Prism. And then I realized, oh, well, that makes sense because what does a prism do to light? So when I looked it up, it was like, okay, this thing's capable of being a boost pedal, a preamp pedal, a buffer pedal, an EQ pedal, an overdrive pedal. It just depends on how you use it. It's a really well thought out, great sounding pedal. So let's get right into the controls. Top left is your tone control. So essentially that's your treble or your top end control. The top right control is your body control, and basically that's your low end. And now what's great about both these controls is they're 15 dB cut or boost, and they're totally separate from each other. In other words, they don't interact with each other. If you roll low end up, you're not going to lose top end, and vice versa. Now the large control in the center, that's your boost control, and that's basically the amount of boost coming out of the pedal, and it's also kind of considered the master volume for your gain settings. And speaking of that, on the left side of the pedal you have a three-way switch. The down position is low gain, the medium position is medium gain, and high is high gain. Now that gain circuit is pre the boost control, so essentially the boost control can be your master, but you could also use it to actually create even more overdrive or even less overdrive depending on how you have your amp dialed, how clean or dirty. I found that the boost was really useful as a master, but also for just kind of custom tailoring the amount of overdrive I wanted. Now the three-way switch on the right is essentially your tone circuit, but it's an important one in that you can choose between three different types of circuits. So in the down position, it's called trans, which is transparent, and I believe that's a JFET driven circuit. So that's going to be really transparent, and I believe that one runs at 18 volts internally. The next level up in the center is your amp voice. That one is MOSFET. And just the transparent circuit, just to be clear, is transparent. So it's basically going to just take whatever you're putting into it and make it louder. And of course, as you start changing the tone and body, then you're changing the sound, but essentially that's what it is. In the amp circuit, which as I said is MOSFET, it's actually going to change just a little bit. It'll be less low end, less top end, but it's going to feel really ampy, and that was one of my favorite settings on this box. And then of course in the color mode, it does exactly that. It really does color your tone. It's a silicon circuit, like a treble booster style circuit, and it works great for solos, certain, if you like tweaked out rhythm tones, or if you wanted your amp to sound like it's an old little tweed amplifier, you can do that. Sounds great. And as I always appreciate, the ins and outs around the front of the pedal, that's a space saver, and of course 9-volt DC in. One thing I did want to point out that I didn't even notice it until I was turning the boost up and down. I was like, man, is that LED changing color? And it does. So with the boost all the way down, it'll be kind of bluish, and then it'll slowly taper as you turn the boost all the way up to red. And I think that's just part of the whole idea behind the pedal, the whole Prism idea. Very cool concept. So yeah, without further ado, let's check out this Jackson Audio Prism. Okay, you guys, I'm going to use my my Shure Classic Pro Strat into my divided by 13 amplifier. Now, before I get into this, I think the way I'm going to start with this pedal is more based on what I did with it. I used it more as a boost kind of overdrive pedal. So I think I'll start there and then maybe work in reverse into the more kind of transparent boost kind of things, because it's capable of so much. I mean, it can be an EQ pedal, a preamp pedal, a boost pedal, an overdrive pedal. There's so much you can do with it. I just thought, well, we'll start there and then kind of work our way back the other way. So here's just the guitar and amp. Now I'll start with kind of the rhythm sound I was kind of coming up with when I first started dialing this for the performance track. So right now the way it's set is I've got it in the medium gain setting and in the amp voice, which I believe is MOSFET. I just felt like that was a really great place to start. The pedal felt really good, and it just kind of led me into my rhythm tones. And the way I did it is because this gain is pre-boost, I kind of toggled between not only being able to use the boost as a master, but I also used it just to create more kind of overdrive. I was actually able to use that to kind of regulate the in between the settings of basically low, medium, and high pre-gains. So this is kind of where I started for the kind of that rhythm track. I forgot I was detuned for that. I had to catch up to it. So that's where I started, and what I wanted was just a little bit more gain than that without going into the high gain. So I just kind of turned up the boost, and I added a little bit more body, which is the low end, and that's kind of what got me my tone. And it's just a really good feeling setting. It felt just really ampy. Yeah, it felt just right. So while we're in this setting, let's go ahead and just listen to let's listen to the tone controls, the tone in the body. These guys are pretty musical, and what's really cool is they're totally separate circuits from each other. So they're not sympathetic to each other or interactive with each other. If you crank bass, you're not going to have your top end change, and vice versa. If you crank top end, you're not going to have your lows and low mids change. So let's just listen to just the way it's set. Let's listen to the tone. Cool, now let's check out the body or the low end on the pedal. So you can hear, like, especially in that low end, you can get that really kind of woolly if you want, or really thinned out in the low end without your top end changing at all. So let's just look at the amount of boost real quick. And I really do dig how that LED changes with the boost. And that's a cool trick. So let's just listen to that now. I'll roll it all the way down, and obviously you got nothing. So if I wanted it to be more unity gain, that's pretty close. So if you just kind of wanted, the amp setting and feel and the medium gain, but you didn't want to necessarily boost to the front end of your amp, that's where you'd want to start, and then you can tweak EQs from there. Now I'll go ahead and start turning it up. And that's quite a bit of a boost to the front end of my amplifier, but it doesn't feel loose. It doesn't feel like it's going to get away from me, but it does have that big kind of open amp about to take off tone. So that's the boost circuit. Now, since we've kind of got the tone circuit and the boost circuit covered, let's let's go ahead and let's just look at the gain really quick, and then I'll go to the voicing side. So in the low gain mode, this is probably where you would be more apt to use this as a kind of a boost pedal, as opposed to something you're creating actual gain with. Or I guess I should say overdrive. So here's off. And still in the amp setting and low gain, this is on. So now you're hearing more just boost. You're not hearing actual overdrive or gain. Now if we were to leave that like that, and then go ahead and toss the gain up one to the medium, now we've got more gain. So that's how that works. We've heard the medium gain. That's how I kind of arrived at my rhythm tone. Let's listen to the high gain setting. So that's what I used for my solo tone, especially in the amp mode. I just thought that sounded great and it felt great. So I think the solo at the end where I was using this guitar, that's what I was using. So now let's just check out the voicings really quick. I'll start in the down position, which is the which is transparent. I believe that's JFET driven. It sounds great. It's basically going to be the closest to your guitar. So if we were in the low gain mode and the transparent mode, for the most part it's going to be your sound. So here's off. There's on, just louder. Now I'm creating a little bit of gain to the front end of that amp, so it will break it up a little bit, but I did show you how to get the unity setting. Now without really doing anything, let's just throw it to the amp mode. Now you can hear in amp mode what it did is it did kind of tame a little bit of the top and it tamed a little bit of the lows. But there's also a feel because now I think we're MOSFET. So there's a definite kind of feel to that circuit that honestly does feel ampy. I think that's why I liked that setting the best. Now if we go to the color setting, it does exactly that. It's not going to be transparent. It's going to add color. It's going to change your sound. So now it's a little more honky, a little more barky, not near the lows. But it was meant to be kind of the silicon kind of treble boost circuit, which I thought was great. If we bump into high mode, the high gain, I thought that was great for a solo tone. I think I did that with the slide. Especially in that neck position, and you're not losing all your low end because you can go ahead and get some of it back. And I thought that just sounded fabulous. Once again, it's kind of the treble boost idea. And definitely I'm not Brian May, but That's what it reminds me of. It sounds great. So between those settings, you know, I was able to get pretty much anything I needed out of this box. Everything from the really cool transparent just boost to kind of a medium gain overdrive to a color boosted or treble boosted solo tone, and none of it was a struggle. It's voiced really well. It's really well built. So yeah, that concludes this demo. If you've got questions, obviously go to the Jackson Audio site and ask away. And as always, I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and there'll be some more demos coming soon. Thanks, you guys.